Hello everyone and welcome back once again to SpaceBourne 2. Early Access version 2.0 was released and with it came some new features, toys and bug fixes for all of us to play with. Before we begin, I'd like to start with a quick word from our sponsors, the SpaceBourne Shipyards. Are you tired of your ships being smaller than the average space station? Do you want to fill your ammo, sell your loot, upgrade your ships anywhere in the galaxy? Would 15 combat drones help combat your crippling space loneliness? Then grab your very own Mothership today. Very big, very angry, multi-purpose, very balanced.
What are you doing, Ryan? We don't stop balancing on early access games. I'll say whatever I want. Moliac did nothing wrong.
Mother Earth is angry, and it can be yours.
Get your own Mothership today. I hope you have enjoyed that. The focus of this update was bringing new features to the game. The biggest added feature actually made it in due to a high number of player requests, which was a bit surprising to me. A couple of features were actually on the roadmap, and one of them, interesting enough, came out of the flexibility of an early access game. It was made on the spot. Literally and figuratively, Motherships were the biggest addition in this update. The game's developer, nicknamed DBK, had told me he got many direct requests for adding a large carrier ship. He has been investigating this for a while and came up with the concept of motherships. Motherships aren't exactly carriers, they are more like mobile bases that, in combat, operate like a capital-sized drone carrier. As a player, in most space games, I'm more of a corvette guy. However, once I realized that motherships already had features that made them into a mobile HQ, and when I started thinking about their future potential once features like crafting or salvaging get implemented, I was sold. Let's quickly go over the major aspects of motherships. Motherships can be obtained through any ship store, except for those that sell trade ships, like complexes and trade hubs. If the Mother Earth doesn't appear at first, the ship selection can be rerolled by closing and opening the store window. Note that I wouldn't expect ship stores to operate like this forever. Motherships operate like the other existing capital ship, it can only dock on large landing pads. Other than being a relatively low station-sized capital ship, there is no other difference to flight controls than flying fighters. Warping works the same way, and motherships can make use of stargates normally. The biggest difference is that motherships cannot enter planets, so make sure to bring a fighter with you for planet-side operations. Motherships have a hangar capable of bringing 2-player ships. As mentioned before, the mothership is not a fighter carrier, so the ships it brings with it are intended for player use. In order to assign ships to the decks, go to a station and use the Ship Manager interface. On the Call Ship screen, you can select which ships to assign to the mothership. Note that assigned ships cannot be manually recalled from this screen, they must be unassigned first. The assigned ships will appear on the mothership's decks and can be launched from and landed as expected. For now, when taking control of the mothership, the fighters will be automatically retrieved back into the hangar. You cannot jump out of a system when flying an assigned ship, either manually or through stargates. Additionally, the mothership hangar has an available services interface. Using it, you can perform the usual services on the currently flown ship. Currently, your current flown ship is set as the latest ship you've taken control of, so if you want to change weapons on your fighter, make sure to take control of it first. Similarly, if you want to change the mothership components after using a fighter, go to the mothership cockpit and take control of it first. The mothership has a large interior and is easy to get lost at first. You can fast travel inside of it by using these consoles here. You can quickly take control of it by fast traveling to the cockpit and then sitting on the captain's chair. You'll notice your crew members, that you usually meet through the storyline, will be spread around the ship's bridge. When fast traveling to the storage section, the first door on the left is the shop. Here, you can quickly sell all the loot stored on your current ship. Remember, at least on the current 2.0 version, the items shown on the sell tab of the stores are the ones in your currently flown ship inventory only. Beside the store lies the mechanics hangar. Here, you can access the usual ship upgrade interface currently only found on faction hangars. Just like the mothership store, for now this interface will only show your currently flown ship, so remember to take control of the ship you want to upgrade first before coming to the mechanics hangar. The Armory allows you to refill your ammunition for free. At least to me, this room feels like it could become a crafting room in the future. Capital ships can't be painted right now, and their perks cannot be changed through the ship upgrade system at the moment. They can have their levels upgraded, and just like fighters, up to 2 new components or turret slots can be added to them. They can be upgraded on faction hangars even without docking on them. However, they can be simply upgraded on the mechanics hangar inside the mothership itself. In combat, the Mothership operates similarly to the already existing capital ship. It uses large weapons like static turrets and big cannons, and it does not have the usual weapon group mechanic of fighters. As it stands, I wouldn't really recommend using big cannons on the Mothership due to the way the firing works are set up and due to how player-unfriendly the capital ship controls can be for the time being. Using static turrets, deploying drones and wingmen, and keeping distance from the fight seems to be its best strength. Remember to enable weapons. For some reason it's really easy to forget to press tab to turn on all the static turrets. This ship comes with the following perks. The Combat Drones perk will deploy all assigned drones. The Cluster Barrage perk launches multiple missiles on all hostiles around you. This perk is also available on the other capital ship. The Repair Drones perk launches multiple repair drones that repair your hull only. Motherships also have a super secret technology that grants them 50% damage resistance applied along the already existing resistance parameters. You can also leave your Mothership and take a fighter while in combat. Mind that, for now, if the Mothership dies while you're flying a fighter, it's game over. This isn't exactly easy to achieve, but it can happen. Here's a few tips I can give out when fighting large battles with the Mothership. Remember to toggle your weapons on and off using tab in order to fly faster when needing to reposition, escape, or catch up with enemies. When your weapons are disabled, you get a boost of speed. Mind the firing arcs of the Mothership turrets. They don't cover the whole 360 degrees around the ship, so repositioning may be necessary when you want to help out your wingmen and drones with your turrets. At the moment, the automatic static turrets have two fire modes, depending on how far they are from the target. When an enemy fighter is too close to your ship, the static turrets will fire a lot of slow-moving, point defense projectiles against enemies. Those can be super inaccurate and inefficient at the moment. When the turrets target a distant target, they will fire a hit-scan laser beam that deals decent damage against stealth targets and are devastating against weak targets. Keeping your distance from the battle while keeping your turrets well positioned is the best way to use your Mothership in an active combat role at the moment. Note that using the Mothership as fire support is not yet implemented and will be looked at in future updates. To keep expectations in line, in the current version, Motherships suffer the same shortcomings as the other capital ship. The big cannons aren't exactly easy to handle, and the actual turret it's supposed to be used against enemy large ships haven't yet been implemented. Its greater focus being on drones, the drones still fall a little short and already seem to require some more balancing and fixing, as even with the change, drones can still be a little inconsistent in combat. Enemy ship AI and their overall lack of collision also makes the Mothership awkward to use in many combat situations, as enemy units are still too keen on focusing on the Mothership and ignoring weaker and better targets. However, the overall goal of having a big ship that can deploy a chaotic force, sit back and clear the area, I would say, was achieved. Another whole new addition to the game in this version was the Ground Support Squad, also called the Nova Squad. To use this squad, you must have established your faction, meaning you have to have played up to a certain point in the story. Assigning soldiers to the squad is done in the same way as assigning wingmen to help in space operations. The wingman squad is now called the Alpha Squad in the game's interface. In case your wingmen are also experienced in ground combat, you can assign the same soldiers to fight with you, both in space and on the ground. After assigning soldiers here, you can click on them in order to assign them to different combat classes. You can also access your squad by going to Faction, Members, and clicking the Squad button. The available squad roles and their intended function are as follows. Blitzkrieg are your average soldiers with average stats. Reapers are lower firing, more aggressive, higher DPS and lower HP soldiers. Tanks are less aggressive, lower DPS and higher HP soldiers. Medics have overall lower DPS, but have the ability to heal and retrieve falling soldiers. Those are the intended roles they are supposed to fill, but the combat classes are still a bit rough in their implementation. They also don't have active skills yet, which could change in the future. When it comes to combat, you can press F1 during ground combat to call in the Nova Squad. Similar to Wingman, they can be given orders pressing F1 again. Fire at will is the default mode of the squad that will follow you and open fire on all enemy units. Defensive positions give much higher damage resistance while lowering the squad's damage output by a lot. Return to ship sends the squad away. It's a good idea to use this if the squad is taking a beating, as its soldiers may permanently die when deployed to ground fights. Right now, the greatest strength of the support squad is to damage and tear off enemy limbs. Although they sit currently at the weak side of balancing when it comes to damage output, due to the way they pick targets and aim at them, they can hit bursts of low damage shots at a single limb of an enemy soldier and actually take them out of the fight. This means they can, thankfully, be used in many missions and situations, even at this early stage. However, it became evident during testing that their greatest weakness are the same as the player: shielded enemies. Shielded enemies do not take limb damage until their shield is broken, and although the game already tracks which ground weapons are physical damage and which are energy damage based, there are still no weapons that are effective against ground enemy shields. This should, of course, be looked at in the future. During the development of this version, we discussed the issue with ground combat balancing. In some versions, the game was deemed too easy, and in others, enemies became bullet sponges. Since I personally enjoy in mod games to have more realistic and punishing damage models, I have brought up the idea that instead of fighting with HP and damage values, making the combat a bit more involved and complex might just be a better solution. Some different alternatives were thought about, but overall the dev went silent, and a few hours later the glorious solution arrived: ground combat, locational damage, also called limb damage or gore system. To see the system in action, simply focus fire on an enemy limb until it becomes disabled or torn off. The enemy may fall to the ground or try to escape, and they can usually be ignored by then, as the enemy will bleed out on his own after a short while. Using sniper rifles and the Chronostep soldier perk to slow down time, some glorious and dramatic moments can be achieved. Overall, ground combat can still do with more development time, of course, especially when it comes to fighting shielded enemies as mentioned previously, but the system should give more flexibility to designing combat difficulty, especially if it's expanded upon later. Understandably so, some folks have already asked for an option to disable this system. It will be looked at by the developer, but I would expect that disabling the system should also lower enemy damage and health, as only disabling the system might make things a little too bullet spongy. Another addition in this update was the drone management interface. When deploying drones, they can be set to different combat stances. Free keeps them on the usual fight mode as before, being somewhat balanced. Attack makes drones more aggressive and enables them to hunt targets further away from the player ship. Defense makes drones less aggressive and stick closer to the player ship. Return recalls drones similar to pressing the combat drones perk button, usually assigned to the tree key. Here's some more changes from this version. There was a quick balancing pass for space battles, ship stats, and faction wars. Hopefully, your faction ships won't simply get demolished when fighting same-level enemy factions anymore. However, I've seen conflicting reports regarding faction warfare difficulty on this version. Feel free to leave feedback on Steam or on the game's Discord, as the dev makes small balancing passes over time. More visual effects have been added. Performance optimizations and some bug fixes were done for crowded battles. Some languages received updated translation and spell checking. Unfortunately, I don't deal with the localization aspect of the game, so I don't have any details. I do note that some community members put a lot of time and effort in their language, and the English language seems to have gotten a lot of love recently. There's also reviews and rewrites being done in the game's story content. I'm not sure if all those localization fixes got done in time for the 2.0 release, however. There wasn't exactly a lot of spare time for bug hunting in this version. However, DBK managed to still slip in some fixes. Here are some examples. Sometimes, after accepting too many missions to be completed at the same system, missions would start spawning all at the same time right after a system's stargate. This was sometimes used as an exploit by some players to farm a lot of missions quickly, but it could lead to game instability. This issue wasn't easy to reproduce as it required longer play times, maybe playing hours in the same session, and an unknown number of completed missions on the same session. If you still see this issue, definitely do let us know. The GPS tracker used in the pirating system wasn't working properly after some previous version, and it's now working again. If you don't know about GPS trackers, don't worry about it.
You are just not ready for the truth yet, Earthling.
Another bug and exploit that got removed was the ability to get mining ships for free or for cheap and immediately sell them at extreme profit on mining guilds. I've still seen some situations where a small profit could be made from selling mining ships, but it's definitely not as absurd as before. 2.0 was a very interesting update to work on and to watch be developed firsthand. The development process was slightly different, as I mostly ran a QA role that would verify new builds and make sure that bug fixes were actually fixing the bugs instead of creating new ones, while also providing fast feedback on new additions and changes to try and lower design blind spots. This means that the version came out more stable, but also means concessions had to be made due to time constraints. This is why I personally dislike setting deadlines for updates, especially for early access games. I'm much more of a subscriber to the "it will be done when it's done" methodology. Although people will be happy to have a date to wait for, and happy with the certainty of a release, there's just no way to do every single thing you want to do, or even that you should do, and people will most absolutely find one way or another to be disappointed with a release much faster than you think. Thankfully, I'm glad that the reception appears to be very positive, and I'm sure the developer feels glad too. The pressure of releasing a new version is stronger the bigger the version and the hype is, and the relief you feel when people get it is pretty unique. As always, thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and if you'd like to see more SpaceBourne 2 content. Have a good one and fly angry!